Yo, Shalom, that means peace. All praise to the Most High. Thank you for your presence, but time is of the essence. So we're going to get right into it this morning. You see the title. I'm PAC Lawton. This is PAC Reacts, and I'm reacting to a video entitled The Secret Religion of the Music Industry by Little Light Studios. Go check them out and see what they got to offer. This video is pretty thorough, if I must say so myself. I started watching it this morning. I got a few minutes into it and I said, you know what? This is too heavy to keep to myself. I need to share this with the world. So I saw part of the beginning. I haven't watched the video in its entirety. I'm gonna keep it on. And let's go ahead and share our screen. Go ahead and share that screen. And we're going in.
So I've learned there's two things that are very difficult to talk about. Don't talk about my plate. Don't talk about my music. Why these two subjects, I honestly believe that people like have a difficult time with is like, think of all the emotional experiences that you've had with music, all the emotional experiences you've had with food and what's wrapped around that. So I'm excited to get into this. Thank you for coming on, Dr. Walsh.
It's good to be back. And this is a topic that's very near and dear to me. I've tried my hand at being a musician when I was younger. And
Nice.
was in a reggae band once and a hip hop band. And, even today, as I was mentioning to you guys before, I do have a half brother who's a very big in the music industry. He's Grammy Award winner and has been very successful. So I understand, music is something that's been very close. I've met most of the big reggae stars, people for like Steel Pulse. Some of the people who know reggae will know Steel Pulse, Black Uhuru, Oswald,
Bob Marley,
Tony Rebel. I have a cousin who's Bob Marley's first niece.
Oh,
No.
wow.
So I used to spend time at Bob Marley's house in Miami. I got to know his mother well and went to school with his brother. And so I know that family well. I know some of Bob Marley's sons. So I have been connected with that. And it has spoken to me as the power of music. I was raised Adventist, and honestly, reggae music and hip hop really.
Strangely enough, I was raised Adventist too. I'm not currently Adventist, but just a sidebar.
They moved me to a place where I would almost have left the church just based on the influence of the music sources.
Wow.
When you listen to, for example, that old school reggae, I don't know what reggae talks about now. I know it's a lot more, as they say in Jamaica, more slackness now than it used to be. But when you talk about like reggae and Rastafarianism, it was like an evangelistic tool.
Almost like a religion.
Interesting.
It is a religion.
It is a religion.
Rastafarianism.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But the music, reggae, became like their gospel music.
Interesting.
So
Wow.
How many of y'all heard me say that before? I've said that numerous times, that Rastafarianism is a religion because Selassie, his name is Rastafari, right? So worship of him is a religion.
I say this in sermons and people are always like, why would you say that? But it's the truth. I've met blonde hair, blue-eyed Rastafarians.
Wow.
Serious weed smoking, back to Africa Rastafarians.
So like they were Caucasian, but because they got into the music,
Almost
they got
like
into the religion.
The music and the weed.
Converted in.
And the same, I met Mexican Rastafarians in California, Mexican descent. And so music has the kind of power where it can make you believe what makes no sense for you to believe.
Right.
Rastafarianism is a statement against, colonialism. It's against being in the West. It's a call to return home to Africa. It's a statement that the former emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, was God himself. As one reggae song says, Haile Selassie was Christ in his kingly character, like Jesus come back as God. Bob Marley's wife, Rita Marley, says that when Haile Selassie landed on the plane in Kingston back in the 1970s or 60s, whenever it was, and he held up his hands, she could still see the nail prints in his hands
Oh, wow.
as if he was Christ. Now, he was an Ethiopian Orthodox, Christian. He denied everything, and they said, well, it wasn't him. That was the interpreter saying that. So this thing, I mean, it leads you down a rabbit hole. It is powerful. And as we're going to talk about today, music has the ability to make you not want to believe what you've always believed. Let me say this from the outset. In heaven, probably one of the great tools Lucifer used was music.
Yep.
I cannot believe he deceived a third of the angels, and he didn't use his musical gifts and talents.
Which he had. I think
end.
it's either Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28.
Ezekiel
One of those.
28 says he was built with pipes and tabrets.
Yep.
The Bible clearly says that he, there's the songs of the angels of the morning. He clearly was a musical being. He understands what music can do because God created music as the vehicle through which God would be worshipped.
Yeah.
So if you start with music, understanding music that way, it was created to worship God. Yeah. What then does God's great enemy Satan, and he is not on the same tier as God, but he's God's enemy. What then does he do with music? And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to look at science. We're going to look at a lot of things to really try and make the case that in fact, your salvation is intricately tied to what you do and don't listen to.
Ooh, this is going to be cool.
So
that's a statement right there.
It is.
So
there's a reason why Madonna said that music is transcends all languages. It's like the universal language, right? I think U2 even said that. There's many musicians that have said, look, this bypasses your frontal lobe and everything and goes like directly into your inner being. And so there's a big reason why we play music for the altar calls and things like that. It's like opening the heart to receive that message. And what's the devil doing? Let's
even step back from that. There's a reason when you go to the grocery store or the Ross or
the
TJ
type
Maxx,
of music that they're playing.
They play the music they play because they know what demographic is going to buy the most clothes. So you say, well, if they want music, then why are they playing the hits from the 70s and 80s? Well, they know the people with the money in the store today are people who like music from the 70s and 80s. And once they get you singing the Commodores and old Beatles music or whatever it is, they know that they take you to a happy place where you're going to be much more loose with your spending. Nothing is done by accident when it comes to marketing and making money. The music in commercials. And I always even say this, you guys know more about movies here at this ministry than I do, but even the music the music they used to score the movies, without it, the movies a lot of times don't even make sense.
That's right.
Someone challenged me once and said, watch a scary movie scene and remove the music. Now I cannot watch scary movies, so I'd never watch them. So I didn't I knew what he was talking about, but I don't watch those movies. But he's right. If you take a clip of one, and I think they have them on YouTube, and you just pull out the music, it's not scary anymore.
Right.
The same exact acting, the blood, the gore, the knife.
It actually looks silly.
It looks stupid. So music is that powerful. So the question for everyone today is, what is the score? What is the background music of your life? What are you playing, and what is it saying about your relationship with Jesus Christ?
Interesting.
And if Jesus was to take your phone and pull up your Spotify, would what he finds on your Spotify be pleasing or displeasing to him?
Ooh,
that's the question. So let's look at music a little bit. Just to look at it, it was already mentioned that music bypasses the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is the front third of the brain. What's most important is probably the prefrontal cortex. So if you've ever heard my sermons, I talk a lot about the seal of God. It says that it can only go in your forehead. That is relevant.
Excuse me. I spoke on this before too. All of your perception is done here in the frontal lobe. I spoke to this specifically.
Because that just behind your forehead bone, your frontal bone here, is the part of the brain that is the highest part of your brain, the most sophisticated. This is where judgment, reason, decision-making, social interaction, sexual behavior, all of that sits behind here. It is also, when I speak about it, it is also, if you lay the body out like the sanctuary, it would be the equivalent of the most holy place in the sanctuary, because this is where sin is dealt with. This is why Isaiah 1:18 says, come, let us reason together, says the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be white as snow, because that's where everything is taken care of. So the lesson is that ultimately what Satan is really after is the destruction of your frontal lobe.
Yeah, you do drugs, you drink. Where's that
It
affecting?
destroys the frontal lobe.
Yeah.
And this is why the mark of the beast can be given in the forehead or in the right hand. You don't need a frontal lobe to follow Satan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you have to have one to follow God.
Yeah, and the hand represents actions in the Bible.
Yeah.
And so you can choose, like, I don't want to worship this God.
I've been saying for quite a while that the mark in your head and your hand don't have to be literal. Your thoughts and your actions.
But I'm going to get thrown into prison, not eat, so I'll do it. You know,
Exactly.
actions.
Exactly. You do it passively almost.
And you cannot do that with God. God will not accept a passive, I'll do it. I fear you. I'm scared. Like, no, God's like, I want you to love me,
You have to
which is
follow.
right here.
And hence, so music is important on both sides of this. So the frontal lobe is where salvation happens, literally. It's where we make the decision. It's what makes us different from the animals. 33% of the human brain is frontal lobe. The next smartest animals are porpoises and chimpanzees. Their brains are only 13% frontal lobe.
Oh, wow.
A dog is 7% frontal lobe. This is also what makes you able to worship. To worship God. So a lot of people think worshiping God is an emotional experience. That's further down. True worship, and I have a sermon recently called God's Love Language. God's love language is obedience. That can only happen when you commit your frontal lobe to him. So what is Satan trying to do? This is what we're going to talk about. He is trying to influence your frontal lobe away from worshiping and obeying God.
Or bypass it.
Sidebar. Back in the day, I used to always wonder how it was that I could say certain things from two females and get a negative reaction, but then play certain things that said the same thing and get a totally different reaction. In other words, if you play it in a song, they don't react to it the same. And the song that I used to use for an example, like I would have this conversation. I'm talking about back in the 90s. I'll be like, soon as the song come on, freak house, bounce your ass, make your knees touch your elbows. Women immediately start bouncing their ass and letting their knees touch their elbows. But at the time, none of them would admit to being freak house, or very few. They didn't want to be classified like that, but they couldn't resist that song. And it didn't make sense to me, even not having this understanding that I have now, that you're hearing, that I've come to. It still didn't make sense to me even back then, because I was like, how come when they hear it on a song, they don't offend? You know, and here's why. Because that frequency has already got them open, and the words are bypassing their frontal lobe and entering the brain here. So the perception is off. They're not perceiving what they're hearing the way they would if they were seeing it. You know, so that's why. Because like he said, judgment, reasoning, all that stuff goes on in the frontal lobe of the brain. I was watching The Calculated Destruction of the Black Man by Merkaba. And I think volume 7 is about hip hop. And he goes so deep that he has a doctor to come on and talk about the science of music and frequencies and how it hypnotizes and affects the body. So this isn't too far for that beaten path, and it's definitely not far off truth.
Bypass it
Shut it down altogether.
so you don't use it.
Yeah.
That's what he's after. He wants to desecrate the most holy place in your sanctuary, in your temple body. That's what he wants to do. And there's nothing more effective to do that than music.
You brought up, movies and scenes and things like this that are, in conjunction with music. Like you see these two things working together, and the way that the brain works. If you just look at simple, like an fMRI study of someone's brain when they're watching something, a lot of times because of the amount of information that's being thrown at you, and we're talking about fast-paced, entertainment style television. You will actually bypass the frontal lobe and open up your limbic system, shut it down the blood flow to the frontal lobe. And so your mind, it's like opening the gates, recording everything, but you're bypassing the very thing that's that's making choices about what you're seeing.
And you then are
That's why they say believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. That's part of the reason why. And it's linked to that scientific fact that your reasoning comes from here and visions enter your brain, passing that frontal lobe and being processed totally different.
no longer critiquing it.
Yep.
You just
That's
letting
the
it
problem.
And so now you begin to believe things. So and we're jumping ahead, but one of the things I say to young people all the time is you think it's your idea that you don't like church.
Yep.
You think it's your idea that you don't want to go to church or that you don't want to go to family worship. You've been programmed to think that by what you watch and what you listen to.
And look, we see it, television programs, radio programs, and people think that they like what they like by their own choice. I picked this, I chose that. Well, first of all, you only got the options that they give you to choose from. Second of all, they even coerce you to pick what they want you to pick. I'll give you an example. Well, what they do is just put an idol of yours in that particular brand, and it's a done deal. Or even that particular, not just that brand, but that particular model or that particular style. That particular shoe, that particular whatever it could be. It's all the same formula for how they get you on it. You know what I mean? So I remember a female said to me, and people who watch me have heard this story before, right? I'll be less redundant once I start getting more views. But I have to reinforce some things. I remember talking to a female and her saying, "Oh, I just love me a bald head dude with a beard, a big dude with a big belly, a bald head, and a beard." And I said, "Did you love that before Rick Ross came out or before he became popular or whatever?" She was like, "You know what? I didn't." I say, "You see the influence of the music and pop culture and programming and all that?" I said, "That's a wild, ain't it?" And she was like, "Yeah," she had to give it up. She had to admit it. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So here's you can see that's it. But here's how the brain on music. And some of the things I want to highlight is that when you listen to music, it does release dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually makes you feel better. We're talking about reggae music. You play Bob Marley, it just makes you feel better. I mean, it just does.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about the bass line and the beat and the voice. It really makes you feel better. So music does all of these different things. I won't get too much into it. I don't want to get too scientific, but it does release dopamine, which means you like to go back to it. You learn as you look at this one, it stimulates both sides of the brain, the left and right hemisphere of the brain simultaneously. Mm-hmm. So it boosts learning and information intake, augmenting clinical skills. And that third bullet, or the second bullet, learning may be increased fivefold. Fivefold. So you learn 5 times better when you listen to music than if you weren't. And it can aid the production of serotonin, affecting feelings of satisfaction.
Okay, guys, your car insurance company does not want you to know you can do this.
Big chunk of your monthly.
Wow. So, like you learn simple things when you're a child through the use of music, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you sing it to a song. You like totally keep it in your mind and stuff. And Moses taught the children of Israel the commandments of God using music. And so we know that that's an excellent way to lodge something into your brain. So yes, it does matter. What are you associating as you're learning?
Absolutely. So the reason this is important then is when we even go to church and we listen to music, does it matter? Mm-hmm. If it makes you learn so much better, does it matter what music you listen to, even when you're serving God? We'll come back to that. But I want to jump to the spiritual side. 1 Samuel 16:23 says this, "And it came to pass when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took a harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him." Here's the question. If you can play a demon out of someone with music, can you play a demon into someone with it?
Yeah. Didn't you, a while ago, you and I both used this guy's clips for our LA Live show. His name was Rod Long. one of those. He was a producer for Diddy's music.
Oh,
Wow.
And he became a Christian and a pastor, and he talked about this exact thing.
Yep.
And he was like, yeah, I was in the recording studios, not with Diddy, but with other artists. And he's like, there's full-on seances that they were doing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I've heard that. I tell a story all the time. There's a guy, G. Craig Lewis, used to do the videos called The Truth Behind Hip Hop.
Yep.
And he tells the story of the guy who was in the group Color Me Bad. So if you may remember, they had their hit song was I Want to Sex You Up. And
Yeah, I've heard of that.
big
Yeah.
song. It was number one all over the world. And one of the guys, so I think it was two white guys and a black guy. And I think the black guy ultimately went back to church and like, said, nah, I can't do this anymore. Left millions of dollars on the table,
Praise
became a
God.
pastor. And so G. Craig interviewed him. And the guy told a story that when they were making that song, I Want to Sex You Up, they actually brought witches into the studio to put a curse or a hex on the song.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, whatever, like, you know, I'm here to sing and make money, whatever. I'm sure this is just foolishness they're doing. He didn't take it very seriously. He says that the curse was that when 13, 14-year-old girls hear the song, they would want to give up their virginity.
Oh, wow.
And so, again, didn't think much of it. The song was number one in Canada, England, US, Australia, all over the world. They get the fan mail starts coming in. 13, 14-year-old girls.
Man.
Thank you for making this song. It gave me the courage to lose my virginity.
Wow.
I don't have the slides here, but
It was wild that he would say that. So I moved back to St. Louis from Houston, Texas in 1991. I was 13 going on 14 years old. I started high school at Metro. That song came out. It was everywhere. The remix came out, and I liked this so much, the remix, better than the original. I used to sing, and I called myself trying to sing the original. I had a cold little falsetto before I started smoking and stopped singing and stuff. And it was like, come inside, take off your coat, I'll make you feel at home. Now let's pull. But I used to sing that in falsetto like the dude who's singing it. Brian, I believe his name is, the white guy who's the lead singer for Color Me Bad. Didn't know this what they're saying at the time, but I knew that the young girls was going crazy over that song. And prime example, while we were at Metro, we had open campus like a college, even though we were in high school. It was a college prep school. So we could leave for lunch. And the school was on Kings Highway in Washington. When you come out of the back, come across the alley, he was right there on Kings Highway in Delmar. On Kings Highway in Delmar, where the Taco Bell is, it was still there then. You could see the back of Metro High School from right there. It's that close, directly across the street. So most of the students went to Taco Bell, that rallies right down the street, a little further down towards Page, further north, when that was the Zips. That little strip right there, that's where we would go and eat lunch every day. Well, one day, Color Me Bad was up at the Taco Bell. And all of the kids from the school was up there getting autographs. And the girls was going crazy. And when we got back to the school, that's all they could talk about for the next few days. That song and that group. Wild as hell. And anybody who went to Metro High School, that between 1991, in 1991, can tell you that's true. You know what I'm saying? I was class of 95, so that was my freshman year. I never will forget, because I couldn't believe the fact that we could actually leave school. And then because we had a college schedule, not just an open campus like a college, I had a study hall, which I was free to stay or leave Monday, Wednesday, and Friday after lunch. So since lunch was at 12:10 or 12 o'clock, something like that, I could leave for lunch and didn't have to come back because I didn't have another class for the rest of that day. So my first 2 years of high school, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I was out of school at 12 o'clock. That was wild. That was too much freedom for me. Oh, that's crazy. Good one for days.
I have a slide of when Jay-Z was making his hit song 99 Problems. Now, Jay-Z kind of comes I was never a Jay-Z listener. So I went and on YouTube and looked up that video. And if you watch the video, Rick Rubin, who helped start Def Jam Records, clearly a talented dude, but I think also just some very dark occult stuff. They have, as they're going in the studio to record 99 Problems, the camera pans down, and I actually like screenshotted it and used it in some of my talks. And there's a book that says Book of Magic, White and Black, or something like that.
Wow.
So as they're going into the studio, they make sure you know they're going in there, and not magic is going to be done like, wow, magic, you made great music.
Wow.
Like, no, magic is being done.
Yeah.
Like demons are being called in. And so these songs really begin to sell. And so again, let me go back. If the Bible makes it clear in 1 Samuel 16, if David could play his harp and the evil spirit leaves Saul,
yep.
Can you play music that would send a demon in?
Yeah. No words. Just the music.
Just the music.
Yeah,
That's what
absolutely.
Rot Long was also talking about. He said it's not about the words, it's about the music. And he specifically mentioned hip hop
Because
that it invites spirits in.
music is an expression of the soul, right? I mean, I understand this from being a filmmaker, and you don't play certain types of music if you're wanting someone to feel like on edge or like nervous or whatever, right? You're not playing like super calming music. You're matching the feeling that you're wanting to relay. And so it's like, it's kind of like if you're trying to relay this like worship situation, but it's like this cool like vibe, thing going on, like it doesn't match, and the words are really an experience that is wrapped up also with the music sounds that are giving you that experience.
Yep.
I agree. And the verse I always use for people is this one. And I think if you're a parent, especially, remember this verse, Ecclesiastes 7, Verse 5 says, "It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools."
Interesting.
And so how does the Bible define a fool? The Bible says, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. It is the denying of God that makes you a fool. So when we listen to music, we have to be careful that we're not listening to the song.
It is the denying of God that makes you a fool. Lord, have mercy this morning. Hallelujah. That's what a fool is, a person who denies God. I don't care what they say in your Webster Dictionary. People who have biblical understanding know that. Just like love is obedience to the laws of God, the laws of obedience to the Most High. That's what true love is. Come on.
Songs of fools. People who deny God, don't respect God, or they claim to know God. Like they go up and collect their Grammy and say, I want to start by thanking God. Right. But they're winning a Grammy for an album that promoted all kinds of vice and immorality, right? But I want to thank God. Which God are they thanking?
Right.
Ask yourself, exactly, who are they thanking? And sometimes they're literally thanking Satan.
It's true.
Understand.
It's not the Most High God of heaven, the God of the Bible, Yahuwah. And a lot of them black Christian churches are not talking about that God neither, because they got a picture up of the God that they talking about, and he don't look like the description of what's in the Bible. So make it make sense.
And that this is really important. We look at this here. A 2006 study of almost 1,500 teenagers found that teenagers who heavily listen to music featuring sexual subject matter are more likely to start having sex earlier than those who do not, by a margin of almost 2 to 1. Wow. The study's authors found that the pervasive message in such music, that of studly, carefree men and subservient sex object women, is reinforced even if it isn't closely paid attention to. Opining, we think that the music, really lowers kids' inhibitions and makes them less thoughtful in terms of their decisions. Wow. Let me make sure to highlight that this is not a Christian-based study. I believe this one is out of the journal Pediatrics. Right. It's a secular, non-Christian thing, and this is what they're saying.
They're not trying to bend your mind to a moral decision here.
Exactly.
It's like they're just saying matter of fact. Yeah. This is what's happening.
We recently released a show on Sabrina Carpenter. She's like basically the new big artist that's hanging out with Taylor Swift and all those kind of people. And her music videos specifically are extremely sexual. but also extremely violent. So you got sex and violence connected. And I found a similar study that was a completely secular study, but they were talking about when young girls are going to watch these kind of music videos, they're being educated, trained, even if they don't understand that later on they will eventually start sexualizing or acting out what they've been seeing and listening.
Listen, have you ever seen someone who's just kind of coasting along, just kind of managing their life, trying to get things done, and they're kind of frustrated, they're not really happy, they're just making a living, not designing their life, and then something happens. Something triggers them. Something causes them to
Shut up.
Well, it goes back to what we said earlier. It bypasses the frontal lobe.
Yeah.
Right.
So you expose yourself to. So imagine now. So this is just the music. So when you add the video, to your point,
Yep.
and this may be the same study, a later study of such imagery and videos, this one focusing on teen women and younger girls, confirmed the likelihood that frequent exposure may not only influence how girls see themselves with greater effect the younger the girl is, but also could actually affect their ability to have healthy relationships, right? And so this woman talks about essentially when women perceive this scripting that's in the media, this can affect, influence, or inform how they think men and women should behave toward one another. Wow. So you say again, well, these kids, they're not getting into this stuff, because of, the music, but a lot of times what's actually happening is the enemy is working on multiple fronts to move children, young people into behaviors that will destroy the rest of their lives. Music, again, is like the score. It's like the background influence all the time that's consistent, because everywhere you go, you'll hear Taylor Swift. You'll hear, I don't even know this,
Sabrina Carpenter. Yeah.
You'll hear the rappers. You'll hear whoever. And what we don't understand is, as Roger Murnau talks about this in the book, A Trip into the Supernatural, he says, and back then, of course, all celebrity was local. There were Hollywood stars, but it was your city. You had who was the best band in that city. You went to that jazz club or that nightclub, whatever it is, and you heard that band live. And he said that all of the best entertainers or the biggest entertainers weren't the most talented. He said once he started to worship the demons, he talks about the fact that they would be seen worshiping the demons as well. Yeah. They would be there at these events. The best doctors, the best lawyers, the best everybody would be there, because it isn't about talent. So the best singer isn't Taylor Swift or Beyonce. They're just the ones that somehow Satan has given them permission
are willing
to go all the way up that high.
Yeah, and when you mentioned Roger Murnau, he was a former Satanist who was in seances, in these kind of satanic circles, and was about to be, what do you call it? Finally inducted. Yeah. And then just before he left and he became a Christian. So
he worshiped demons. Yeah, I mean, that's literally what he was into in mansions. Glad you say that, because everybody may not have read the book, but he worshiped demons in a mansion, beautiful places, he says, with elite people. Is who he worshipped with in Montreal, Canada, after he came out of the Merchant Marines after World War II. So I say all of that to say, listen, no one is a super mega star and doesn't pay some homage to the one who controls this industry.
You got to think of Satan has had 4,000 years of experience on humanity and seeing them fall and knowing exactly what to offer them and what not to offer them, right? Yeah. And he knows that he's going to come up to this time that he's going to confront Jesus, right? He's got 3 choices. You're going to pick 3 things that you have, 4,000 years of studying humanity. You got 3. One of them he throws at them is like, I'll give you all these things. I'll give you it all if you just worship me.
And Jesus was offered that, and he said no.
Yeah. The very basis of all that stuff, I guarantee you, if you really sat down with probably most of the celebrities and they were dead honest with you, I guarantee you they probably all have been confronted in some way, shape, or form. And we're talking the top ones.
The top
ones.
You've seen enough evidence of, Bob Dylan's or whatever that talk about it, forever.
Actually admit it.
Katy
Time
Perry.
you've heard it. Yeah. How many of them have done that behind closed doors that you don't?
And so we have a couple of videos on our channel actually of actors and musicians, artists that say, I sold my soul to the devil. They say it, in one shape or form or the other. And so it's interesting, like you said, why would you see that pattern over and over and over if this is just one big joke and they're all just like on the joke and we just don't know it?
And I honestly think that's why you see these top performers almost like as if they're worshiping Satan or they're worshiping self or they're, requiring the worship themselves. I mean, by default, you're worshiping Satan when you're asking people to
I recently, and this video might come out way after this has happened, but the VMAs were happening, the Video Music Awards, and Lady Gaga came out, and it was like all her dancers were in this cage, and they look like a bunch of demons who were trying to like get out of the cage, and she looked fully satanic. I mean, she frequently looks fully satanic, but I believe that there is a purpose for this. Katy Perry, when she some kind of award show and she was like a witch on the broomstick getting burned, like all of these different things. Beyonce dressed up as like a sun god. Why do we not parade around like that?
Right.
Because it's not in our lifestyle. Like, this is not part of our life, but out of the heart, the mouth speaks, right?
Amen.
So,
well, the other thing is, if in order for them to keep their stature, they have to pay homage publicly to the one who gave them their position.
I believe
and
that.
hence,
in order for them to keep their public stature, they have to pay homage to the one who gave them their position. And that's with anything. Whoever the one that gave you a position gonna want their credit.
you see these things. I remember when Beyonce did the Super Bowl back in the 2000s, I think it was, and and she did all this satanic hand imagery and all this. It was all over the internet, and anybody can go back and look at it for themselves if they want to. And what a lot of commentators at the time were saying is, you can't get this high without speaking or referring people back to the source of your power. Satan wants, ultimately, what does he want? You go back to Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28. He wants to be worshipped.
Yeah. Those are his preachers.
Absolutely.
Those are the preachers. And just like Jimi Hendrix said, man, when you get them at this hypnotized state, you can preach into their subconscious.
Yep.
They know it.
Let's look at it. So here it is. This is Jay-Z holding up the triangle. Does Satan still use music to inspire false worship? Absolutely.
Look at all the
people. Yeah.
And when he comes out, the first thing he said, the rapper says, get your hands up. Yeah. You read the Bible, one of the ways you worship is to put your hands up, right? So they say,
and that's part of the reason why the stage is elevated. I say that too. It's like a worship thing. They put these idols, which are false gods, above them, and they hold their hands up and praise to them. Yeah, all that.
Put your hands up. Jay-Z, one of his nicknames is Hova.
Yeah.
Because he is, and in the lyric he says, I am Jehovah, God MC. Yeah. What a lot of people don't know, let me break this down a little bit. Hip hop music. So we talked about reggae's origins or reggae's influence by Rastafarianism. Hip hop was influenced by the 5% Nation of Islam. So the Nation of Islam is where Louis Farrakhan sits. Malcolm X was a part of it. It was a black nationalist organization that was, had to me, terrible views towards white people. Now, in the 60s and 70s, segregation still existed, made that thinking maybe even more easy to digest. But as time went on, the civil rights movement happened, things loosened up. The other group that came out of it
made that thinking more easy to digest, or made that thinking justified. What in the buck broken?
Was a breakaway from the Nation of Islam. Clarence 13X Powers is the one who did it. And even the 13 and the X means something. But he started a group called a 5% Nation, and only 5% of black people would really understand this. And it is that the black man is God and the white man is the devil.
Interesting.
Now, he left a little something out. Only 5% of black people will really understand this, is what he said. And no, I'm not a member of the 5% Nation, but it goes something like this. 85% will be lost, and they won't really know what's up. 15% will, but only 5% are going to be willing to do anything about it. They're going to be willing to change it. Other 10 are going to know and be dormant without any action. That's why they're called the 5%ers.
That is what they teach. Now, here's why that's relevant. Because when you listen to hip hop music, everyone from Jay-Z to the Wu-Tang Clan, the Poor Righteous Teachers, old school Big Daddy Kane, I go on and on, all of them are either members of it or sympathize with Eric B. and Rakim at the foundation of hip hop.
So Jay-Z too?
Jay-Z is a 5%er.
Which is basically like a racist organization,
It is.
like reverse
I'm
racism.
gonna say again what it is like.
Yeah.
Say what it believes, and if anybody gets upset, they can go and look it up for
Google
themselves.
I heard bullshit, reverse racism. Who do they oppress? No, I'm not a 5%er. I don't follow Islam. I don't believe that it's the truth, according to the Most High God. So I'm not sympathizing with the 5%ers. I'm just calling out a lie. They don't know what racism is. And what they're doing, even though it may be prejudice, is not racist.
Right.
They believe the black man is God and the white man is the devil.
Interesting.
Wow.
That is literally what they teach. Now, why is that relevant? Because hip hop became popular not because black people bought hip hop music.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want everyone to understand.
But that's devil meaning liar, not devil like as in Satan. So, you know what I'm saying? This is turning into a religious conversation, right? So
This is true.
Hip hop became big and popular because white suburbanite kids
That's right.
bought
Mm.
hip hop music albums.
Yep.
Black people in the hood weren't buying out. They listened to it,
Yeah.
but they weren't the ones spending their money on it like the suburbanite kids were. So
God.
here you have a music form that comes out of a demonic teaching.
Wow.
And let me be clear, that is a demonic teaching,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
No, the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood,
Right.
If there's if the only devil you're fighting is the actual devil,
Yeah.
and none of us are gods. Either way, both sides of it is
That's
bad
right. We're
theology.
back at the tree of knowledge of good and evil at that
Exactly.
point. Yeah.
So
See, so he doesn't have a proper understanding of the scriptures. If he's saying the actual devil, he's talking about Satan. Satan was referred to as a devil because he's a liar, and that title could match anybody for real.
this is the basis of all of much of hip hop music. I'll say it that
He
way.
is the father
So
of all.
what does that mean? Well, you jump to like Kanye West. Here's Kanye West wearing a Baphomet t-shirt.
Mm.
Now, some of you know who Baphomet is, a demon. He
The goat head.
goes back to Aleister Crowley,
Mhm.
who promoted him very well. For those of you who don't know who Aleister Crowley is, he was a British occultist who the Beatles, and I don't have those slides here, but the Beatles have him on the cover of their Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band album.
Go to
He
Beatles.
influenced, I have a book about him, and I got about a third of the way through and stopped reading it. The number of people this man directly influenced, everyone from Hugh Hefner,
Mhm.
I mean, just so many people that he influenced on a sick, twisted view of sex, sexuality, theology. He wanted to be Satan's lead person. So when you see
He
someone
was.
wearing a
He was
Baphomet
amazing.
t-shirt, there's
Yeah.
pictures of Beyonce wearing
Yeah.
Baphomet
Yeah.
rings.
Yeah.
She
All
had
of this
the Baphomet
motorcycle
motorcycle
outfit, yep.
outfit.
That's
yeah.
the very symbol the Church of Satan uses for their actual
Yeah.
church.
and the Temple of
Yeah.
Satan now.
Yeah,
And
Temple
she's
of Satan.
married
Temple
to
of-
Jay-Z.
And she's married to Jay-Z.
Mhm.
Look at what Kanye West said this years ago. I sold my soul to the devil. That's a crappy deal. At least it came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
Wow.
So he
Wow.
admits it, and this is him down here rapping it with Common over here on the side,
Mm.
and there's Kanye there, and so he says, "Look, I sold my soul to the devil." He you know, and
Yeah.
he's not the only one. DMX once said that as well, and others. Then he comes out with a gospel album,
That's crazy.
Jesus is King, and all these people, including Joel Osteen,
Great voice.
mega church guy in Houston, Texas,
Yeah.
has Kanye West in his church talking about Jesus and his conversion. If you watch, I listened to it. It made very little sense.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm not
Yeah,
sure the
hold
Holy
on.
Spirit's leading this because it's not very,
Mm-hmm.
it just wasn't very, you couldn't take much from it.
Mm.
But now look at where
You
Kanye
took
is.
much from
Yeah.
it.
So did Kanye West really become a Christian? Now, they say he still has church service in Calabasas, California, but I don't know that you can have play both sides of this.
When we kind of covered this a couple of times, when he started kind of turning back towards, it was interesting to listen to him say, like, I asked God for this and that, and God didn't give it to me. So you know what? I'm pretty much done with this. And it was like, wow. So like God's not giving you what you want from him, and that's the reason why you're just like, yep, nope, you know. And
Yeah.
and it was like, you know, what if God not giving you something? Is God giving you the best thing for you? You know what I mean? Like God says no sometimes. That's the best thing. Like I remember when I was in Hollywood wanting to ask for fame and fortune, I didn't get it. I could easily have been like, well, God, you didn't give it to me or whatever like this. No, but God gave me something infinitely better. He didn't allow me to go down that road.
Mhm.
And, you know, so he answered my prayers, but just not in the way that I wanted it. And now it's better off for it.
Well, if you're a Christian, ultimately you want what God wants for you.
That's right.
That's the true hallmark. You
That's
take up.
Well, I'm not. I am a follower of Yahweh Shai, aka Jesus Christ, but I am not a part of organized Christianity because I'm just not. Neither were the people of the Bible. But anyway, on that note, that has been enough for right now. This is PAC Lawton, PAC Reacts. Hope you guys have a blessed day. Tap in, like, share, subscribe. Follow me on TikTok at PAC, PAC space Lawton, LAWTON. Same as on Facebook, and on IG is Pacman_Lawton. So, yeah, shalom.